This is Frank Stams, Wes Pritchett, Reggie Brooks, Mike Stonebreaker. Mike currently is not on camera. He's in hiding. He's in the witness protection program under the Golden Dome. We keep all guests that want to remain anonymous. We respect their wishes. Mike could be, it could be in the United States. He could be, somewhere else in the world. But we're grateful to have Reggie Brooks, running back, legend, Michael Stonebreaker, linebacker, legend, Wes Pritchett, legend, yes, and your host under the Golden Dome, along with Frank Stams, a podcast talking Notre Dame football past and present. What we like to do on the podcast is examine the team now, and try to explain why Notre Dame hasn't won a national championship in what now? Is it 30, 40 years?
36.
Yeah, 36 years. So we'll try to take what's happening now in the first quarter, and then in the second quarter, we want to say, what would Lou do? And then in the third quarter, we preview the next week's opponent. In this case, it's Miami. And then lastly, we talk about, anything you guys want to talk about. We could talk about ND88, N88D.com. Go and get your championship apparel. Proceeds of this will benefit Reggie Brooks and Holtz's Heroes Foundation. Reggie, I know we'll want to talk about that a little bit later. So anyways, thanks guys. Thanks Reggie. Thanks Mike. Thanks for joining us, doing this. Thoughts? Just finished putting an ass kicking on Purdue. Worst loss in Purdue's, I think, 137-year history. Reggie, let's start with you. You're the youngest in the group. What were your thoughts?
I will say it just boggles the mind that, the difference between the week before and this week. It was like a completely different football team. And I will say it was just encouraging to see them lean into running the football. Because I think that's, whether it's one of the running backs or Riley Leonard himself, they're going to have to hang their hats on running the football if they're going to have success through the course of this year.
Stoney?
I agree with Reggie. It's very
there he is.
To see Notre Dame running the football, having success running the football, north and south. We sit there and yell at the TV all day long. Get the ball up and down the field, north and south. And so I was very pleased with that.
Wes?
I would agree with these two guys. I sent a text to our group chat watching the NFL yesterday. I was watching the 49ers and the Ravens, all these teams in the NFL that are actually using a fullback and running the ball downhill. I've always felt like Notre Dame's strength is our offensive line, our physicality, ability to recruit tight ends and potentially fullbacks. So, I'm not a fan of the one back zone play. I would love to see us running a little more downhill. And I think it plays into the strength of the guys that we recruit. And, Reggie, this, when you run the ball and you run it effectively, it opens up the passing game anyway. So I think I saw an interesting stat that they were saying the percentage of plays in the NFL that are pass plays are actually going down. So the game is actually switching back to more physical, control the ball, run the ball. I thought that was really interesting. That surprised me a little bit. So anyway.
So my thoughts, a little preview on the show, Mike and Wes and Reggie. Wes knows this show's a little irreverent. It's a lot of laughs, a lot of stories, raw and unfiltered, I like to say. So my analysis of this show is that game is well. Marcus got their attention. And now we see what this team can do and how good this team can be. Because, I love the fact that they put an ass kicking on Purdue like that, and that shows what they can do. But you know what? It makes that NIU game even more tragic, and
Yeah.
how that went. And these are part of Marcus's, and I like the guy, met him a couple of times, but these are part of his growing pains as a head coach, is not capturing, not getting their attention, every week. And, I saw a comment that he made last week about the NIU game saying, I don't want to go back. To me, it's ancient history, NIU. It's long gone. Forget about it. But he said, we believed the headlines. Well, Marcus, and I can say this because I'm older than you, and and I got some flesh that's still out there on that field at Notre Dame. Is that's on you for not getting their attention and keeping it every week. But we saw what they're capable of doing. Riley Leonard getting reminding the Irish faithful why they went after him, because I was questioning why this guy. I know he's a good quarterback, don't get me wrong. I know he's a good quarterback. He just wasn't playing well. And I think Saturday we saw what he does best. And, he runs the ball. Still hasn't thrown a passing touchdown on the season. Still hasn't thrown a ball over 24 yards downfield. I think their downfield passing game, they've got to develop, especially if they get in the playoff, because that'll be just too easy to defense, just a run-oriented team. But congratulations. They put an ass kicking. I saw some 1-2 out of that offensive line, but unfortunately, there were some injuries there that Notre Dame had and lost a couple of guys. Back to our guest, Michael Stonebreaker, Under the Golden Dome, with Wes Pritchett, Frank Stams, Reggie Brooks, Under the Golden Dome podcast. Mike, your thoughts on the injuries? Why do they occur? What is it going forward? What's it mean going forward?
It's what everybody knows. It's next man up is what it is. It's an opportunity for somebody else to get some playing time, to step right in and don't look back and compete as hard as you can. And there shouldn't be a second and third string, drop off at Notre Dame. And the next guy in just, needs to know his responsibilities and get out there and compete as hard as he can. Now, you can read your headlines and you can believe your headlines, but if you don't go out on the field and back up your headlines, that's what the problem is. Under Coach Holtz, we were always the worst team in the world and we weren't all that real good. But we all knew that we were pretty goddamn good, And so, that's what you have to do. I just lost you guys somehow. That's what you have to do.
You're still there, and it's perfect because your camera's a little off-centered, and that couldn't be more fitting for you.
All right. Thank you. I appreciate
I like
that.
it. It's like we're just getting a glimpse of Stoney. He's coming by. He's coming, going through the frame and coming back out.
And so it's a great opportunity for for whoever's up. And why you get injured? You're just not in a football position, or you just had some bad luck. But 99% of the time, if you're in a football position, you're not going to get injured if your head's on a swivel and you're not taking any unnecessary shots. Odds are you're gonna. If you're hitting the guy harder than he hits you, odds are you're not going to be injured. But sometimes the grass, your ligaments just give out on you. So
well said.
It is what it is.
Reggie, thoughts?
Well, my thoughts were, again, back to what Stoney said. I mean, I watched it, and one of the guys, again, it wasn't a whole lot they could do because they fell into the side of the knee and got rolled up. But one guy, again, he was there too erect. And again, you have to be moving forward as an offensive lineman. You should never be just standing up in a pile, looking around. You need to be finding somebody to hit and stay in a good football position, pad level, because when someone rolls up in the back of you, you just drop to your knees, and you're not going to, the injury won't be as severe as to someone when you're more erect and they roll you up and they, that knee gets turned the wrong way. I will say, again, it was tough to see both of those, in particular with Ashton, the center Craig. He was one. I don't think it was a whole lot that he could have done because he was in a good position, was blocking, and it just kind of got chopped. Guy fell into his knee by someone blocking him. But I am concerned because that's an area of concern because we've lost some guys prior to this. So, next man up. I'm just hoping the next man up is going to be someone that can be counted on to step up and do things at a high level.
Well, I know that was a stupid question, me asking why the injuries, but I thought, maybe there was an outside chance that, Reggie, did you guys ever sabotage anybody that was playing in front of you, put something in their
No,
food?
I hate it when guys used to run into the back of linemen. I'm like, open your damn eyes and see where you're going. If you're running into the back of your, and they do that. I mean, that happens. But if I ran into the back of my lineman, I'm like, come over here and kick me in my ass because I'm not doing my job. I had a different level. Our offensive line was so damn good. I was always 2 yards downfield before I even saw a defender.
No.
Because
Wes, I know you sabotage people that played in front of you. How did you do
Well,
it?
they thought I was sabotaging them because I was so slow, but I actually wasn't. The funny thing is, Frank, to be honest with you, we talked a lot of smack. I think we had a lot of swagger when we went out there, but I never, look, I was trying to kill everybody I hit, but I was never intentionally trying to hurt anybody. No, I don't think that.
No,
I wasn't. And I want to go back to some of the things that we were talking about before, like, why did we lose the NIU game? And we talked about this a little bit, Frank. Coach Holtz, and Stoney mentioned this, Coach Holtz would break us down after every game, no matter how well we played. Tell us we were the worst team in the world. Tell us how great the opponent was. Get us prepared, that we were going to have to practice harder than everybody else. And then we would practice harder. We would practice. We were held at a higher, and we talked about this. Notre Dame has to raise the bar. Their floor has to be higher and higher. What they expect of all these guys on Tuesdays and Wednesdays or however they're practicing, they got to practice harder. They got to be more prepared mentally because you can't go out there and just be flat and lose to a team like NIU if you got enough talent to beat A&M on the road and to beat Purdue in their worst loss in 130 years. I mean, our offensive line dominated, our defensive line dominated. There's no way. I can't. You think NIU's got more talent than Purdue?
No,
I don't think
no,
so.
Listen, I'm with you 110%. We've talked about that. Irish Nation, you're under the Golden Dome with Wes Pritchett, Frank Stams, Michael Stonebreaker, Reggie Brooks, talking Notre Dame football, past and present. It's early in the season. Just finished an ass kicking at Purdue. Again, worst loss ever in Ross-Ade Stadium for the Boilermakers. But no, you're right. I mean, we've talked about that consistently about Lou, but about having that's what I said. Marcus has got their attention. Well, Lou always had our attention. But another thing going forward, another thing that Lou would do. Now you've shown you can do it. You're putting 66 up on the board. Running game is, probably near or at where you want it. I don't know. I'm not in the meeting rooms, but so the question now is, what do you do now? And he would always say, what are you going to do now? And what are you going to do now? What do you do now? Mike, what do you do now?
Come out and you evaluate this. All right, your first couple games, you already lost the game, right? What can you do? You can't do a damn thing about it. You go out like you should have done from week one, and you take it 1 week at a time, one play at a time, and you play as hard as you possibly can on each individual play. And you make tackles, you make runs, you make stops, you make scores, you make blocks, you make the right read coming out of the backfield. You do everything you're supposed to do as a football player, and you continue to try to excel and sacrifice for all of your teammates and all the fans that are out there coming to watch you play.
Reggie, you just said, I want to ask you guys the same question. Well, Reggie, what do you do now? And you just sent me this cool little thing on how we win from I guess your days are,
yesteryear.
Yeah.
But but there it is. I mean, you have to be more physical, and I know it, in this day and age, that's always tough, but you can't play this game without practicing physically.
Physical.
You just can't. I mean, it's just not going to work because you're not going to be consistent in it. You have to practice physical. And again, there's opportunity for injury, but it's your body has to get conditioned to take those hits and deliver those hits. And those soft tissue muscles and that soft tissue, you have to harden it up. And you can only do that
the speed of the game when you're playing full speed. The speed of the game when you're playing full speed. You have to be used to reacting at that speed level too.
So I don't want to interrupt you, Reggie, but you're hitting on what I was kind of alluding to when I asked that the dumb question, why the injuries? We all know why injuries. You can't help injuries. They're part of the game. But in a way, I want to say, and coaches will probably say you're crazy, but in a sense, I think they upped their game. I think practice was hard. They upped their game. You can never simulate the pace or toughness of a live game. And I think now they're upping their game. They're playing at a different level. We saw that at Purdue. And, in a weird way to me, and I know, people say, no, it's not true. But in a weird way, when you start doing something that you're not used to doing, and Wes, you were just talking about it, Reggie, you were talking about it, you're making yourself a little vulnerable when you're practicing or playing like you have never practiced or played before. And in a sense, I mean, you got to take the good with the bad. It's they lose I think it was Craig for the whole season. How do you pronounce his name, Reggie? Botello?
Jordan Botello.
Jordan Botello.
Yeah, they lose him
also,
for the year because of a knee.
Yeah, that's the center and the right guard, by the way.
No, it's the Botello's the edge rusher.
Yeah, but you also.
Oh no, you're right. I'm sorry. Billy Shrouth is the right guard. The right guard is going to miss a few games. Craig is the center. You're right. Jordan Botello is a defensive end.
Anyways, Reggie, do they have the team probably better than anybody being close to the university with Holtz's heroes? Do they have the depth at the offensive line to, like Mike says, the next man up?
Yeah, they definitely do. But the thing about it, coming into this game, you were down Tosh Baker and you were down Charles Jigashaw, which those are two tackles. But I think again, Pat Coogan is someone that can step in. They have some Pendleton, so they have some pieces they can kind of reintegrate that was a little more that played last year. So you'll have a little more. You have the depth and you have the talent from a depth standpoint. This is one of our stronger units. But again, we can't continue to lose guys at this rate. I mean, to lose two offensive linemen, and I'm glad Billy's coming back because that's a huge, him in a couple of weeks because we're gonna need him. Because I'm hoping that they see that with this offensive line, it's easy, and the young guys, it's easier to run block than it is to pass block. Young guys are better when they're delivering a blow versus receiving a blow. So, like I said, we've all said, running downhill is going to be, that's how this team is going to win, because not just the running backs running downhill, but getting Leonard Riley running downhill, or Riley Leonard running downhill is going to be key too, because that's part of his game. When he's running, he gets into a rhythm and gets into a flow a lot quicker. And I think that's going to help the passing game.
All right. Well, okay. So Miami coming up. Mike, Wes, what do you expect from Miami?
I mean, listen.
What do you expect, not from Miami, but what do you expect from us.
I mean, here's the
27-point favorite. We were a 28-point favorite against
there's
NIU.
There's a lot of similarities in this game than there were in the Northern Illinois game. We're 4 touchdown favorites. It's a MAC team. Listen, the MAC kids are all kids that are coached well. They're all 3-star guys that are going to, that love the game, that don't want to give it up, that play their hearts out, that are going to play at the top of their capabilities. Miami of Ohio is going to play at their best against Notre Dame. Now, can Marcus Freeman use whatever formula that he used for the Purdue game and plug it into the mentality of the players to step up and play and be ready in the first quarter against Miami of Ohio? I mean, I'm hopeful that they've learned their lesson and that he's figured out a process to figure out how to break the guys down and build them back up over the week. But you know how it is. I mean, you got to go out there on Saturday. You got to be ready mentally on Saturday. And that, I think we took for granted a lot of the times that we were ready to play on Saturday and didn't realize how much of that Lou had. But I think some of that you just got to have it as a player too, right? I mean, if I'm walking out of that stadium and I know that I'm playing football, I'm going to kick somebody's ass. I mean, I hope everybody else, I didn't have to worry about the guys around me in 1988. But I mean, think about some of think about the talent that we had when we first got to Notre Dame, Frank, and Jerry Faust was a coach, and some of the games that we lost that we knew we were a lot better. Jerry didn't get us right mentally. So I hope, I think the Irish are going to blow them out. I think they're going to do exactly what you said. I think they're going to enforce their will. I think they're going to run the ball. I think they're going to control, the line of scrimmage.
I couldn't agree with you more. Coaching is not about X's and O's. Shit, there's a million guys that can draw on diagram plays and X and O's and on the board. It's all about leadership. It's
leadership. Head coach is all about leadership.
Yeah, it's all about leadership and getting your guys ready to play, preparing them for the season, and game time decisions. Making the right decisions. Just like teams, there's 6 or 7 plays. Usually in a close game that determine the outcome. There's 6 or 7 decisions that I'm sure coaches that have to make during the game that also determine that outcome. We see that every year. We see that every game. So, Mike, what do you what's your overall look going? With Notre Dame going forward. I mean, people talked about the schedule not being as tough as it has in the past. I mean, what do you think about their chances of making the playoffs? And, how's this team progressing? Are they the 66 team, 66-point team against Purdue, or are they the 14-point team against NIU, or somewhere in the middle?
Well, after the Texas A&M game, I heard people commenting and read a couple articles about that's it, Notre Dame going to the playoffs. They were already penciling them in for the playoffs, and I guess that's because of how weak that their schedule was supposed to be this year. You look at that loss. Okay, well, if you did have that weak of a schedule, how was winning out for the season to begin with? And so, I don't see how them winning out puts them into a playoff picture because of the weak.
Yeah, you're breaking it. You broke up on us a little bit, freezing a little bit, I think. But I think the point was made that you said, you don't see how they're going to make the playoffs by winning out. I don't know. I think SC's got a pretty good team. If they continue to win strong like they are and finish kicking SC's ass at the end of the year, I think, with Notre Dame's appeal, I think they will slip into a playoff spot. What say you, Reggie?
I think again.
I mean, you can.
Go ahead, Reg.
I'll say this. My expectations for next week is, again, kind of rinse and repeat. We've got to lean into this running game, getting guys after, and that defense. But to your point, it's the mentality, it's the mindset. You know, physically, you have a stronger team. You're more talented, you're more capable. It's just a matter of, are you going to you're going to do the little things the right way and get out there and play every down, every opportunity, take advantage of it. Are you going to do that? And and that's on the players. I mean, yeah, I agree. Like I said, Marcus has to figure out what he needs to do. And this is a different generation than us. I mean, how many times did Coach Holtz threaten to take our scholarship if we wasn't practicing the right way? And we were dumb enough to believe him, like, well, because most of us, like, hey, if I don't got a scholarship, I can't go to school.
Right.
So it's a different dynamic. Now you got these guys that are, making three,
Yeah.
$400, $500 million. They're like, you can't bench me. You can't take my scholarship. And and again, so he has to find a different way to encourage and get these guys to play week in and week out, because it doesn't matter who you play. And again, I agree with Wes. Yeah, it's Miami, Ohio. And again, no disrespect. Maybe I'm disrespecting a little bit, but if they don't go out and dominate this team, they're in a cycle. They're in a bad cycle of up one game, down the next game, up another game, down the next game. You cannot have that. You got to be consistent in your play from week to week. And I haven't seen it. So which team is going to show up on Saturday will tell you a lot about the direction of where this team is going to go.
I mean, I agree with that.
Which team you think is going to show up, Wes?
I mean, listen. I think what Reggie said is true. I think they've been, they showed what was the Marshall game 2 years ago? They had the same kind of letdown against a team that they should have beat. I mean, I was very hopeful going into the Northern Illinois game. I thought we were sort of over this mental letdown, given that we went into Texas A&M and played the way we did at night there and won. So, I'm going to remain cautiously optimistic, Frank. I think that he's going to use the Northern Illinois game as an example and figure out what the hell he was doing. What did he do different in week 3 from week 2? And how does he carry that on into week 4? And I think Reggie's right when he says that this, how they respond this week will give us an indication of the direction of the program. I think if they come out sharp, play hard, and just pound them into the ground, then I think we're excited about them going into the Louisville game the next week, and that'll be another test too. Don't underestimate Louisville. That's going to be a good game, I think, or that'll be a game that'll at least tell us something about whether or not we have a playoff team.
Hey, Mike, you were going to say something earlier.
I was just talking about the strength of Notre Dame's schedule, which after the first game, they had already penciled them into the playoffs. And so now losing that NIU game, I would like them to win out for the rest of the season. But with that perceived not a very strong schedule, I don't see how winning those games is going to put you back in Notre Dame a one loss season. But your schedule was weak to begin with. That's all.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing it can save them is, if you're going to lose early. They did. I think they're back. I think they like I said, Marcus has got their attention now. They've shown that they can do it and run the ball. I think it's a team really looking for an identity, and I think they found a big part of that identity against Purdue. And they've tasted, what they need to win out in the season. Hell, I see him I see the next challenge, or really the game that they possibly could lose. I see them being a favorite the rest of the way out, all the way to Southern Cal out there. I think they can run the table until that happens. And of course, that's a million years away. A lot could happen between now and then, but I see them coming out and just beating, they could score 100 against Miami, with the type of athletes they have. And, it's just really about getting after it. I'm hopeful. And I want to see Riley Leonard though start to evolve as a quarterback, getting those, the timing, the rhythm, not with just the little dinks and the dunks, but he's got to be able to throw the ball downfield. If you can't do that, it's going to be eventually that's, lack of that
Start
offense.
sitting on routes.
Yeah.
They're going to
Well,
start
they are
sitting
sitting on
routes.
routes, and you
Yeah,
have more guys in
those
the
safeties
box.
going to be coming downhill.
Right. Exactly. You guys got a favorite player you watch, or not so much a favorite player, but a guy you watch? I was watching, that edge rusher, the kid that got hurt. I thought he was a lot of potential, big kid. I don't know, 6'4", 260 edge rusher. Had a lot of tenacity about him. And, that's what really pass rushing to me is all about, and is getting after it. 80% of your pass rushes come off of a bull rush, second effort, or your quarterback sacks. And so, I think that's gonna hurt a little bit. But Notre Dame's deep. When we were in school, I remember the Ohio State recruiter or my high school coach saying that the second teamers at Notre Dame were just as good as the first teamers at Penn State, and I'll never forget him saying that. But anybody you guys Reggie, how about Jeremiah Love? I just love this guy.
Man, again, for me, he is a key, but they have a pretty deep backfield crew. Again, I like how they're, it's kind of reminiscent of what we had. We had guys that we were two back, but we still had guys that were kind of breaking off, a number of runs at a high clip. I'm back there with a Jerome Bettis, a Rodney Culver, Rocket, Tony, my brother, Rodney, Anthony Johnson, and we were all averaging on 5 yards a carry. So I look
Braxton
at this
Banks.
guy, yeah. I mean, you have some guys that were, again, it reminds me of the running that we did back in the day. They had 46 carries for 360 yards. I mean, I was like, wow, this is it took me back, but this kid is, he's playing at a high level, and they're finally, I'd like to see him get more carries more than anything else. He's only carried the ball, the last 2 games about 20 times. And I think, again, the more he gets into a rhythm, the better he gets, because he starts off a little hesitant, but once he start getting downhill, he's a handful, and great lateral movement, but just he's not a huge guy, a huge runner, but man, this kid is explosive. He's aggressive, and the more you see him run, 210, and he runs like a kid that he runs like he's about 5'10", 185 pounds, because of his ability to move, and he runs well between the tackles, and he can get outside and get downfield, and he's actually a pretty darn good receiver as well.
Michael, what do you think of the what was the linebacker we were talking about? Is it
Jack, Uncle Jack, they call him, Frank, because he's the oldest guy on the team.
Is he?
Yeah, and he plays linebacker.
He has a lot. He's very similar to you, Stoney.
Well, he reminded me a little bit of myself. Yeah. And he's been around for a while. He plays all positions. He makes a lot of tackles. He's around the ball a lot. You got to appreciate that. He knows that defense. He knows how to run the defense and get everybody set up. So, Notre Dame's defense has been pretty solid. That their defensive backs are solid. They're getting pressure on the ball. So, the defense looks good. Yeah.
Nice. Wes, anybody you want to highlight?
Yeah, I want to highlight Kennedy Urlacher. I don't know if you guys noticed him coming in there like a missile, but it's obviously Brian Urlacher's son. He's a freshman. Urlacher was one of the best linebackers ever played the game, I think, overall. But his kid, man, he had 3 or 4 tackles, a broken up pass, and I read where he was PFF College's highest grade true freshman safety. in week 3. So I think he's man, he just looked like a football player the old days, like remember Steve Lawrence? He came up and hit guys like Steve Lawrence, man. He was flying in there. Did you see him, Reggie?
No, this kid is, I mean, to be a freshman and to diagnose, he does a great job of diagnosing plays and getting downhill.
Yeah.
Like, that's a thumper. But
yeah, no, he stood out. He stood out.
Yeah, without
we
doubt.
always talk about kids don't hit like we used to play. He looked like the old school guys. He looked like Steve Atwater.
And he's tackling with great form, great pad level. Yeah. You know, it's not that drop tackle crap that they do now, which I absolutely hate.
He's tackling like someone actually taught him how to make a football tackle.
He was absolutely taught how to make tackles old school. There's no doubt about it.
He sticks his face mask into the chest, hits, wraps up, and he hits on the rise. I mean, textbook tackling.
Ooh, I like that. Hitting on the rise.
That is beautiful.
Listen, you got to leave it to an offensive guy to come up with the best defensive terms.
Right. Got to drive your hips, Reggie.
I was on the wrong side of the ball for a minute. And then
what's out? Do tell. What do you?
Oh, I was DB for
cornerback.
More year. Yeah, and no, that was horrible.
What you wait to your?
I was on the wrong side of the
sophomore
ball.
Year.
Yeah, I was on the wrong side of the ball. I'm just gonna say that. That was again. I eventually.
So you came to Notre Dame as a DB.
No, I came in as a running back. I started at running back.
Oh, I see.
Athlete, and coach again. They had I was actually the boundary corner opposite T Light.
Oh, really?
It was always cool, because I would go to Tony. T Light treated me more like a little brother than Tony did, actually, because he would, like I said, when I was playing corner every Sunday, we go watch film. T Light would pick me up, and I would go to this yogurt place, and he would talk to me because he knew I was struggling. I did not want to play DB, but Lou was like, "Yeah, get on over there, and we need some depth over there." So you do what you got to do. Like Stoney said, you do what you got to do for your teammates, and I made a few plays, and then I ran into McCaffrey. And not Christian McCaffrey, his dad, which was like, this dude was 6'6".
Damn.
Yeah, and we were playing freaking man the whole game, and all they were doing is just throwing the ball up, and it was just a jump ball.
Right.
And I lost every time. Time. So.
Well, I'll tell you, man, that's the greatest compliment there is when they can move more you can do. And that's a great compliment to you as an athlete. But you found your niche, man. The Irish Nation. You want to watch a strong running back. Google Reggie Brooks and watch. I googled you last year. Sometimes I said I want to see Reggie run the ball, man. There's this one clip of you running against Michigan. I'm like, damn, people are bouncing off you. I know you know.
No, you did have a great career, Reggie.
Yeah.
Oh, it didn't hurt. Like I said, I definitely got better being chased around by a pretty damn good defense. And again, I hate Stoney, by the way.
You were easy to tackle during practice. So I don't know what they're talking about.
It was Stoney, Andre, Chris, Boo Williams. Todd is not going to tackle anybody, so I was never really concerned about. But like PT. Those guys chased me around like the whole freaking day. And you guys know how our practices work. So it wasn't like they were coming up to tag off and go by you. They were coming up and hitting my ass. So I definitely had to toughen up really quick, playing against probably to me, the best defenses in the country, without a doubt.
Irish Nation, you're listening to Under the Golden Dome with your hosts, Wes Pritchett, Frank Stams, couple linebackers from the '88 National Championship team, along with teammate Michael Stonebreaker, linebacker on that team, and Reggie Brooks, running back. Reggie, what year did you come in?
I came in the year after the National Championship year in '89.
What was that like? What was that like What was that like walking on water thanks to all the guys before?
Well, I learned real quick again. It was like, sit down, freshman, and we'll teach you how we play this game. And I think
Oh,
that was the
okay.
best thing that ever
I
happened to
like
me.
that.
I had, Anthony Johnson, my hats off to him. That guy was just an absolute beast. But when I got there, because we came in a little early because it was the kickoff classic and we had to come in early, a week early. But like when the upperclassmen came in, I came close to leaving. I was like, I can't do this.
Why they were mean to you?
No. Well, I don't think it wasn't about me. It was just like the speed and just the physicality of it.
Gotcha.
I
It was
remember that.
ridiculous. Oh my gosh. I mean, it's like, because we were like there as freshmen, and I'm just going up against our freshman guys, and like Demetrius DeBose and Carmel McGill. So I'm thinking, okay, it's not easy, but I'm like, okay, I'm like treading water. But when the upperclassmen came in, completely different dynamic.
What was
I mean,
Stony? What was
mine was
Stony?
blown.
What was Stony like to you?
I wasn't there. I wasn't there, Frank.
Oh.
I played every other year, Frank.
Okay.
That was,
Yeah.
All right.
that was
Yeah.
one of my.
That was
him-
Stoney's
yeah.
off year.
You were, you were in
him and
Europe.
my
I
brother.
think you went to
But
Europe.
like I remember, like Chris, he just was nonstop. I mean, like literally just a wrecking ball, and to be as short, kind of stocky as it was, he could move. Defense was ridiculously fast. That was the thing that really resonated with me because I was 4'3" coming out of high school, so I mean I could run, but our defense just absolutely flew around to the ball, and it was just the speed it just blew my mind. I was like, I'm not gonna, hey, I'm a fast guy, but it was like, damn, what the hell is going on? And like, and the coaches don't give you any, they don't give a shit. It's just like,
No, they don't.
You better
Right.
you sink or swim.
Yeah,
And
right.
and if it wasn't for
yeah.
a handful of guys in the running back room, I was sinking. My freshman year, I was like just a two. I was a day away from just like, forget it, I'm done. But
Well, guys, yeah, no, I appreciate you sharing that with us. Any last thoughts before we wrap this this episode of Under the Golden Dome? Any last thoughts about Irish football? Any stories you guys want to share?
I've shared my story a little bit before. Y'all were talking about your freshman year. I was the only. I graduated from high school at 17. I was like the only scholarship kid that was on the scout team and got redshirted. And I had my transcript. I was coming home, and my mama, of course, was like, "Come on home, darling. We miss you. We got your room right here." My dad had a couple of pops. He jumped on the phone and said, "Listen, Wesley, God damn it. You made a decision, and by God, you're going to live with it. Quit feeling sorry for yourself. I don't want to talk about this shit anymore." Click. And that was it. And I decided that day, I mean, the thing about like my son is getting redshirted at Tech, and he's complaining about it. I said, "Look, man, that was the greatest thing that ever happened to me because I played against the best guys we had. And at the end of the year, I wasn't scared of those guys, and I had gotten a lot better, and I could play up and man up against those guys." So, you got to the point is you got to put sacrifice in. Everybody has a different story. We all stuck with it, and we all ended up having success. So,
yeah. No, I'm with you.
I don't do that anymore, though. That's kind of the problem.
What's that?
They don't have to do that. They don't really have to do that anymore. I mean, like if you don't like something,
yeah,
right now they can just leave.
Yeah, and that is the worst thing to happen to these guys because you come in and you have this expectation that I'm supposed to be it all world. No, sit down. Me basically listening and learning how to play the game at that level.
That's right.
Because when I came in, I did not know. I thought I knew, but I didn't.
No, you don't know.
And to watch guys play and then have those guys, help me along the way was critical for my growth. I mean, I really didn't play at a high level until my senior year. And it was because of the guys that played in front of me. I learned from them. It was also playing against some Hall of Fame guys. We had some just like Bryant Young, Stoney. I mean,
Zorich.
we're playing Chris. I mean, these are guys that played the high level. Todd Light, who should be a Hall of Famer. This is, that's what I learned from them, and you learn the hard way by getting your ass handed to you.
Yeah, that's right.
Did anybody
instead
say,
of leaving,
yeah,
I was like, hey, I got a similar thing like you, Wes. My dad, I called home. I was actually headed back to Oklahoma State, and my pops was like, "Did you sign that letter of intent?" I was like, "Yes, sir." He's like, "Well, you made a commitment. You're gonna honor it. Figure it out, Click." Because
Yeah,
this is when you had the long distance calls. You
I
had to pay for the
understand.
damn thing.
yeah,
So you
Sunday night after 6 o'clock?
Hey,
yeah.
all
Like,
I know
Click,
is I'm glad my dad said that to me. Thank God he did.
Yeah.
Seriously.
Hey, Mike, what are your thoughts on the portal?
I told my dad, these guys really aren't all that good. I think we're gonna be all right. If you don't practice hard against your teammates, you're always going to be the man in high school, and you're not going to get tested. And you get out on the field, you're not that good because these guys don't practice hard against one another and don't, like we've said, learn how to play fast, learn how to play better, learn the consequences of not being in a football position, getting your bell rung. They don't learn those things anymore because, hey, they don't have two-a-days, or they practice once a day, or it's shorts and shoulder pads, or it's all a mental week of practice, and they're not getting the scars, getting the calluses that it takes to improve in the game of football.
Iron sharpens iron, Mike.
Yeah, that's
There
a
you
great
go.
point. Yeah, when Lou inherited a lot of dysfunction, Wes Pritchett. There's a
Yeah.
lot of dysfunction there.
Very dysfunctional.
Wes.
So, and I'm always amazed that he was able to blend the idiots from the previous before he got there with all the talent. You guys had a lot of talent, with that first class. You, Todd, Pat Terrell.
But don't you
Sonny
remember what he
Rice.
did, Frank? Remember
Sonny
what he
Rice.
did?
What'd he do?
Don't you remember when Lou first got there, he would make everybody stand up and say something about themselves? And then he would encourage us. He's like, figure out your group of guys, go to dinner, go to a movie. He encouraged us to start doing stuff together. And I think that helped a lot. I do.
Yeah. I think that was when he really got, really mad at me. We got off to a bad foot because I pantomimed what I was trying to express to my fellow teammates, and he didn't really see the humor in that. Anyways. Well,
he came around eventually, Frank.
Right. Well, listen, I want to thank you. Before we go, you're under the Golden Dome with Wes Pritchett, Frank Stams, Michael Stonebreaker, Reggie Brooks. Reggie, tell us about Holtz's Heroes. What's the mission? What are you guys doing?
Focus for Hostess Heroes again is to kind of tell our story. And again, I've spoken this to many people, having worked at Notre Dame and seeing how guys from different areas have come back and find themselves in difficult situations, whether mentally, physically, financially. We work to support former student athletes in that space. So again, that you have a support system, because we were just talking about the brotherhood that we developed over the time we were at Notre Dame. It's still in effect to this day, and it's not just about the former player. It's about the family members and our kids. That's that next generation of what love, trust, and commitment is about. It's not about the individual. It's about the team. It's about the family and us supporting, our communities, our legacy of what that brotherhood meant, and how guys, I feel I can go anywhere in this country, and I know I have some guys that will literally go to bat for me anywhere. And I want people to know that and see that and experience it, because it's unique. And I've dealt with a lot of different Notre Dame groups or eras, And there's been none like this one. And I tell guys, whether you were a walk-on, whether you were a starter, All-American, whatever the case may be, we were there for each other. We were there for each other. And again, when you lose that, you lose a part of yourself. And it's like, how can we bring that back to understand? Coach Host always said, if you were missed, if you didn't show up, who would miss you and why? And this trio right here, love you guys. We don't always get along. We don't always, but there's genuine love and care for each other and for our children. Because I know if my son was somewhere, and if my son was in New Orleans, I could call, Stoney up and say, hey, my kid is coming that way. If someone's coming in Texas, Atlanta, Ohio, that is extremely rare, gentlemen. That is extremely rare. And to have that type of support and commitment, you'd be surprised at how many guys lose sight of that and actually lose it over the course of the years after you've left.
Well said, Reggie. That brotherhood is strong, and it is alive and well with Holtz's Heroes and you and the rest of our teammates and everybody else under that umbrella of Holtz and Heroes. And I can tell you one thing, if you ever come to Cog Falls, Ohio, I do have bail money for you. So I want you to know that. Mike, what do you got going? What's going on?
Well, piggybacking off of Reggie, we're trying to raise some money and do some things for the Notre Dame's NIL and also the Holtz Heroes Foundation. We've started a website, n88d.com, and we're selling some national championship merchandise, and portions of those sales are going to the Holtz Heroes Foundation and to Notre Dame's NIL funding. And so we want to get that out there, and we'd love your support.
Awesome. Wes, any parting words?
No, I just piggyback on Reggie. I've been very involved in Holtz's Heroes for a number of years. I'm still on the board there, and I think our footprint has grown. I think our mission statement has remained pretty good, and we've really taken care of some players now as we've gotten older that really needed it. And the money's being used for good causes that are benefiting players and their families. So that's all. I would just give them another plug. That's it.
Awesome. Irish.
And thank you guys for joining, Reggie and Mike. Thanks for joining Frank and I. We really enjoyed having you guys. And it is a brotherhood. And the reason we have this podcast and we want to talk about it is because I think we had something that was very special. And I think it all came together. Guys from different parts of the country, guys from different backgrounds, the coaches, having Barry Alvarez there when Lou Holtz was there. I mean, we had a magnificent experience that we're very fortunate to have, and it's great to talk about. So
yeah, no, I couldn't agree with you more. Just like what Reggie said, just like family, you don't always get along, but man, at the end of the day, nobody messes or you always got your family you can count on, or you should. So I want to thank you guys too. Thank you, Irish Nation, for joining us for another episode of Under the Golden Dome. You're with Michael Stonebreaker today, Reggie Brooks, Wes Pritchett, and Frank Stams. Until we meet again, go Irish, beat Red Hawks, Miami, and we'll see you next.
Go Screaming Otters.